Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm V. LaBianca.
This is Skeptic Generation.
And we only have one mic today.
Yeah, we do. Hey, V, how's it going?
Hi. It's been a long weekend.
It has. We are back from Faithless Forum. We had a good time. We needed to use our gear going over to the convention, and we came back, scrambled, got everything set up, and it turns out that one of our cloud lifters, it's a preamp for our other mic, is not working. As of, about 2 minutes before the show started, we decided that we're going to need to share a mic. So we're just going to be getting in real close and making sure people know that we're not getting spliced together. We are in the same room.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so a couple of announcements before we jump in. Faithless Forum was this weekend, and it was amazing. Thank you everybody who showed up and showed out today. This week, it was incredible to get to meet some of the faces that have been in our live chats and on our Discord and in our Patreon for so long, and really get to hang out with people. So we really appreciate you showing up. A note as well. We are not going to be taking abortion-related calls this week. Last week, we couldn't download our episode for a whole day because it was under review, and then some of our clips got flagged. So this is definitely a conversation we want to continue to have, but for right now, kind of like what we did in the beginning of our show with the vegan thing, we're gonna put a little cap on it for now. We still love y'all, but we're gonna be moving on.
And we'll create a designated time in the future. But yeah, if it's week by week by week by week, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So thank you for calling in. If that's what you're on the line for, feel free to talk to our call screeners as they pull you back. If you have a different question you would like to ask that is unrelated to that, feel free to stick around. If that's really the only thing you wanted to talk about today, then we're sorry to see you go, and thanks for calling in. Definitely.
So can we just talk about Faithless Forum for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Holy moly. So we had different panels. V, that was your first time at a convention, wasn't it?
Well, as a content creator, yeah. I was able to give a speech. I was on a couple of panels. I hosted a live game show, Hot Seat Edition with Ethan Michael, which was really fun. It's been a great weekend.
It really, really has. We are exhausted, and we hope y'all don't mind that we're just a little out of sorts, but we're doing our absolute best. So thank you for sticking with us. We have a bunch of callers on the line, and I'm excited about it. Again, for those people who are calling in about abortion, if you have another question, please think of another question. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else before we go? Oh, right. Hey, this show's brought to you by you. Not yet. Skeptic Generation is an independent show. It is us. And without your support, we would not be able to do it. So that said, if you want to support us, thank you. And get ad-free versions of the podcast, an ad-free version of this video, and then various other things like that, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. If you don't want to wait for us to get a cloud lifter, you could go to tiny.cc/SG wishlist, because I tossed a cloud lifter and just a double one up there as well, because either of them would be a massive fix for what's going on. If not, we're doing our best to get it fixed, and we're going to do our best until that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, just to kind of wrap back around, I know we talk about the ad-free part of it. There is a lot more that goes into the updated versions that we release to patrons, that it sounds better. We are able to fix audio issues. It's all nicely clipped. And yeah, so we do have, if you're worried about audio issues and the live stream gets kind of tedious as we work out all of this, the updated Patreon version just sounds a lot nicer.
It really does. I put a lot of time into it. Sometimes when I'm editing, I wind up going through the entire thing and editing out or minimizing every breath so that it's more pleasant to deal with. And if you listen to the podcast, you probably already noticed that it's better than the live version. We're doing our best as we go along. It's just us when it comes to the production end of things. So,
yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're good. Let's dive into some calls.
Cool. Let's talk to Brandon in North Carolina first.
All right, Brandon.
Brandon, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today? Brandon in North Carolina.
Oh,
There we go. Brandon in North Carolina. Can you hear us? Brandon, nope. Looks like we're going to pop you back in the queue. Things are a little loud. Who should we take?
let's take
Let's go with Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
All right, Isaiah in South Korea. I think this is the same Isaiah who's called in a couple of times.
Hey, Isaiah.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight? I guess it's morning over there.
It is noon. It's midday.
It's neither.
We are doing well. It's been a long weekend, man. How are you doing? What would you like to talk about today?
Well, first of all, thank you for taking my call. I'm a Christian, and this is the third time I've talked to you guys. So you guys have been very respectful, and
Hey.
I genuinely would like to get your feedback on this because I've seen this coming from both sides, more so from the atheists and non-believers, skeptics, and that is questioning the mental health of people who believe believers.
Oh, I hate that.
Recently,
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I said, no, thank you. But recently, I had an atheist on my channel, and he's actually married to a believer, and so he was telling me about how inappropriate he thought that it was. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a type of informal fallacy called an ad hominem. It is when you are attacking the person instead of the idea. If you are resorting to attacking a person other than their ideas, number one, there's no way that you can get to truth from that. There's no way that you can get to sound conclusions about reality when you're attacking another person. Number two, you look like an asshole. Number three, you are actually making it difficult for everyone else having the conversation. And so for those reasons and many, many others, saying, you have to be mentally ill to be religious or, it's wrong, man. I don't know what to say other than we're trying to do our best as content creators to provide an example that doesn't do that. And we're going to call out our peers when we see it happen. And I would hope that you're doing the same on the other side. Yeah, maybe?
I don't. I do. With my channel, I've told you before, I sit down and have conversations with atheists as co-hosts. And I think that, it's healthy to sit down and have conversations, but it seems like either side, there's just way too much dehumanization that's going on. And
yeah,
I don't, that's why I really enjoy channels like this where we can, talk and be free and open up to each other.
Yeah.
I think it's a really healthy thing.
Absolutely. If you need...
B, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's difficult to have the nuance sometimes because both sides of this can get pretty heated, but we really have to be talking about ideas and not people, right? An idea can be not great, and we can call that out. We don't need to then call into question, the mental health of the person holding that belief, right? And then the other side of that is it's difficult because a lot of the time, the way that mental health is used in these conversations, oh, that's crazy, that's a delusion, you're an idiot. Like, it's also very derogatory towards people who have mental health issues, right? So nobody wins in this scenario. Right. So it's either you're using mental illness as an insult, which is not great, and you're using an ad hom argument where you could be attacking the actual position, which is what we want to be doing.
Right. So I'm a Latino as well.
Hey.
I know Eric Yeah, Eric, you've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
But like growing up, that's a pretty bad dig, and I'm sure it's probably a dig at anyone in any culture. But saying, "Oh man, you got mental issues, or you need professional help, whatever." And so later on, at the age of 32, I actually did seek professional help.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard thing to do. But I think whenever you have people on either side, and I'm not saying Christians don't do this as well, but I've just seen a heck of a lot more of it coming from the atheist side. And so, I mean, I would like, the guy who I mentioned, he actually uses an avatar as a bear. You guys maybe know him. It's in the conversation that we had because he's afraid of being doxxed and being, people releasing his information and stuff like that. And I think it's horrible, that people have to hide like that. But on the other side, it's like whenever
I definitely want to make sure.
One last thing.
Well, I just want to say really quickly, one of the things that we don't want to go into, though, is we don't want to name and shame either. Because then I've noticed that on platforms like this, when you do that, you're just drawing more attention, and it does more harm than good. But you were saying, go ahead.
I see. I am sorry, but I mean, we had this conversation on the open on my channel, so it's we've had these discussions. But the point being is that I mean, I don't think you can judge anyone by whatever one position that they hold. Like, you're defined by your actions and what you do and how you behave and how you treat people. So that goes across the board to Christians or atheists. But whenever you are, posting stuff that, and I'm not saying you specifically, but
yeah, the hypothetical,
posting really hurtful. Yeah, really hurtful, hateful stuff about our religion. That's very, very, very near and dear to us. Like, as a Christian, it's the center of my life.
But here's the thing: you are not your ideas.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
If you change your mind about something, then I can attack like a bad idea, right? If you are a misogynist
sure.
and are absolutely just hateful of women. Then I can attack that idea, and
Sure.
what's a great example, Isaiah? Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah. Have you seen all of that stuff?
Yeah, I'm very, very. That's not my brand of Christianity.
No, it's not. It's not a very popular brand, thank goodness, nowadays. It was before, but onto the topic. Take a look at some of the people who came out of Westboro Baptist Church. If you were to say, those are hateful ideas, that is a terrible way to view the world, those people who came out of it, they're not hateful they're any longer. They're not following that anymore. You're giving a person the opportunity to rise to the occasion and become their best selves. And so what I would encourage you to do is, if somebody is attacking an idea, number one, make sure it's not a ad hominem, but also number two, separate yourself from the idea. Because I have gotten really, really angry at bad ideas that were said by really nice people, and they thought I was attacking them. And it's sad and it's frustrating because it stops our ability to talk when we conflate ourselves with those ideas.
Wow, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I continually am watching and listening to you guys' program. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Isaiah.
I just would like to see. Yeah, I would just really would like to see both sides just, take a step back and say, hey, we can agree to disagree, and I can attack your position or, without being rude or disrespectful in doing so. And I think if either side do that, we can just humanize each other a little bit more. So,
agreed.
Thank you.
I like Isaiah.
Isaiah's
Thank you, Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah, I'm a little confused. At the beginning, he was like, I've never called before, but... He is the Isaiah who's called. Okay.
Yeah.
That was me then. Sorry, Isaiah. But here's the one kind of caveat to that is I fully agree, and I'm all about taking a step back and divorcing the argument from the emotions if it's going to impact how you're going to be able to communicate or the kind of feedback you're able to get. That said, I am a little bit iffy around the concept of being respectful and being like civil. And I talked about this a little bit in my talk on Saturday. Civility politics, this concept of, well, you can disagree with me, but you have to be respectful and civil about it, is kind of nefarious, just because a lot of the time that is used to silence. And so if you are not speaking to me in the way I want to be spoken to, then I have a right to disregard you entirely or even attack you for what you say. So yes, we should always respect each other as individuals. And yes, that is required across the board, in my opinion, regardless of your God belief. But also don't equate that general respect for another human being with the requirement that they speak to you or about you in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I usually kind of reach for the low-hanging fruit in those examples. Like we're talking about both extreme ends of that spectrum. And I would challenge, any religious viewer, if you're talking about something like honor killings, should you be gentle and respectful in the way you approach that?
Right.
Heck no. There's a time and a place, but make sure you are, like you said in your talk, guys, you guys missed out. It was awesome. Pick your battles.
Yeah.
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 All right. Who are we talking to next?
Do you want to try Brandon again? See if he's back on the line?
Sure. Why not?
Brandon
in North Carolina.
Hey.
Hey, what did you want to talk about today?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question about, I guess, moral authority. Just to give a little bit of a background, there was somebody posted some quote by like Tim Keller or somebody about the Bible
Tim
being the ultimate authority, all that kind of stuff, and that's not really that's not where I want to go with that. But I tried to talk to this person a little bit. And got to the point where they were finally saying, well, if there's no moral authority, then you can just do whatever you want. And now, personally, I've been able to kind of deal with that myself, I guess, the way that I think about that. But I guess what I'm trying to see, I want to see if there's a little bit of, if I could just get some feedback, where you guys would take that, so I can, I guess, be a little more well prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Brandon, this is one of my pet peeves, this question that a lot of Christians tend to throw at you. Well, how do you know anything? And how can you be moral at all? And I would give a caveat here. So like, if they were like, if you do not have an ultimate source of morality, such as God, then you can do anything you want. And I would say, yes. But let's add on to that implication that you are not saying that we both understand, so that's going to help us clarify. So what they are actually saying is not that you can do whatever you want, like we've been chained up and finally like we actually have the personal autonomy to go out into the world and get a hamburger. They're saying you can do whatever you want without worrying about hell. Right? Like that's the implication at the end of that statement. You can do whatever you want and you will not have a comeuppance after you die, right? Or maybe you will not feel convicted and guilty. Or, there's an additional component there that nobody is pointing out explicitly, and we need to if we're going to get somewhere, because I would agree with that, right? If there's no moral authority, if God doesn't exist, then I can do whatever I want without the fear of hell. Is that my only motivation for doing things? Because that's the crux of the argument. It's not, can I do whatever I want? Yes, regardless, I can do whatever I want. It's the second half. Okay, well, why can't you do whatever you want? Is it because you think that there is a hell? Okay, well, now let's talk about that, because that's the crux of the issue. How are you being motivated to do moral things, and what structure have you put around yourself to guide your own actions, and how does that maybe conflict with or conflate with mine? So there's there's a second half of the conversation that never happens, and everyone just like assumes that everyone understands, but it's like, no, if you are telling me that I can do whatever I want and not be afraid of hell, then yes, you are correct. And
Yeah, and I would love to tie in. There are even more issues. Like, this is flawed on multiple levels. I'll just give two. One of them is the structure. If you were to look at the structure of it, what is it? It's whataboutism. It doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. The Holocaust couldn't have happened because if it did, that would be really bad. Are you now convinced? Is that evidence that the Holocaust didn't happen? No. If someone is appealing to, well, this can't be true, otherwise that's bad, it doesn't matter. Bad things happen. You got to deal with it. You can't wrap your view of the world and reality around, well, if not, then oh no. That's just not how that works. And then the other point that I wanted to bring up is they are using morality in this case, this absolute morality, as a prescriptive definition. They're acting as if morality is being prescribed to us, that it is something that we are receiving externally and that it is being directed at us. And the fact is, we're describing what's already going on. We're describing our social dynamic. It's descriptive. When you're looking at it from that prescriptive lens, totally understandable. But you have to understand that the way we study morality, the way we talk about morality, the way that we have seen how things change over time, these are all descriptions, not prescriptions. And trying to switch the two is moving the goalposts, and it doesn't belong. So I don't know. I hope some of that helps. What do you think, Brandon? Uh-oh.
Hello.
We may have lost Brandon.
Brandon, check to see if you're on mute, because you're fine on our end.
Well.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Hopefully he heard, and if not, listen back and...
give us a call back if you want to talk more.
Definitely.
Oh, that's a bummer. But yeah, I think there are so many different directions to take it, but just making sure, regardless, that people are actually explicitly saying what they mean and not relying on inference or cultural understanding, because that's where we can get stuck in the weeds. If you can get them to say exactly what they are actually trying to say, then we can actually have that conversation.
All right. I entirely agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk to Kevan in Florida.
All right.
Pull him up. Kevan.
Hello?
Hello. You're live with Eric and V.
This is amazing.
Yay!
Hello.
Yeah.
What did you want to talk
Hi.
about today?
Well, before I get into it, what I told the screener, I would like to say that 2 years ago, my wife and I were in Austin, and I wanted to pay a pilgrimage to the atheist house on Koenig Lane.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I was back there then, wasn't I? About 2 years ago, yeah.
Well, the only person that it was in an afternoon. It was like a Thursday or a Wednesday afternoon, and the only person that was there was Mark the engineer. I told him I recognized him from, and he sold me a bookmark. I wanted to have some kind of a souvenir from the place, and I took pictures of the walls and everything. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I was there. I wanted to tell somebody.
That's awesome. That is
cool.
awesome. Well, we're glad you got to go.
Yeah.
What can we help you with today?
Well, I've been listening to these shows for many years, and I know that the topic of slavery comes up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys speak about it all the time, and Matt Dillahunty speaks about it all the time. And you always talk about how, well, in the book of Exodus, there are a lot of things that actually condone slavery and the rules for condoning slavery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think to myself, and I go out bike riding after I listen to these shows, and I get these ideas, and I pound them into my head, and then I'm ready to talk about them. An idea that I always thought about is the fact that in the book of Exodus, it starts off where God decides he doesn't want the Hebrews to be slaves anymore. He hires Moses to go talk to the Pharaoh. And there's a lot of immoral things that go on in that story leading up to the Exodus itself that, that's a whole nother story. Killing the firstborn of innocent people in order to achieve that. But then they leave. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We just want to make sure that we're having a discussion back and forth. What in the Old Testament did you want to ask about?
Well, the point I wanted to make is this, that the story is there's an Exodus. They go to Mount Sinai. The whole story so far has been about getting out of slavery. Moses goes up on Mount Sinai.
We
comes down.
Kevan, we got the story. What did you want to ask about it?
Well, why is it that the first commandment in the Ten Commandments is thou shalt not have slaves, thou shalt not deal in slaves.
Got it. Kevan.
Thou shalt not countenance slavery to begin with.
Yeah. So you have to recognize that is not the first story in the Bible. It's not the first story. Did you say in Exodus or in Genesis?
No, in Exodus. No, I didn't say it was the first story in the Bible.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying Genesis.
One of the most important parts of the Bible.
Actually, V, you've got some insight on that if you wanted to.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I can come up with something for
sure.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Where are you going with it?
I was going with it that the Exodus has a lot less to do with what one ought to do when it comes to, enslaved peoples. And it has everything to do with the story that early Israelites told themselves about themselves. You had this growing population in Canaan at the time who had, who needed to build this identity. And there's a lot of kind of scholarly debate about whether or not a group came up out of Egypt. But the fact is, even if a group did, it was way smaller than depicted. And a lot of the people in that area were from that area. The Israelites, from what we've seen, if you look at, Finkelstein, I think is his last name, that the Israelites came primarily from Canaan. But the idea of being God's chosen people, of being, subjected to and victims of all of this, persecution and all of that, it's more about their own self-story. And it doesn't really make sense. If you look back at the time, the area that they would have traveled to was still a vassal of Egypt. They would have fled Egypt to Egypt. We're looking at it through a modern context. And I think that what we're bringing to it is, how should we treat other people? What would a God want? But I think that we need to remember the context, and the context there is it's the story they told about themselves. It became the basis of a identity.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that, like, right now a lot of Christians are like, oh, what should we get out of this story? We should get out of the story things that apply to us today. But the way that Jewish people, I believe, and also at the time this story was used, it was just a story about their history, about how they became a nation. And also, though, like, even if we were to say this has some kind of moral authority over our lives today, what we're seeing essentially is what we see here all the time. I deserve rights. You don't deserve rights. We can there is every single group we could point to could be like, okay, well, you got out of slavery and now you want slaves. Well, yeah, because it's us. And we didn't deserve to be slaves, but those people do, right? It's just human nature to be like, hey, I understand my perspective, and I understand that I'm a human who deserves these things. But it really takes a lot of additional work, both emotionally and intellectually, to be able to be like, oh, you also are a person who wouldn't like this, and so I shouldn't do that, right? The golden rule, I guess.
Absolutely. The one thing that we can take comfort in is the atrocities that are laid out in Exodus. You can at least be comforted in knowing that it didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I was just kind of looking at it as a moral story, And it just seems to me that a moral story that's about ending slavery for a group of people should not then, because Exodus is the story of the Exodus from Egypt, but it's also the story within the story wherein the Ten Commandments happens. I believe that's part of Exodus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Moses goes up on the mount, and you've got absolutely. I really do think, though, that in the context of why it's there, it's a lot less interesting. But I do want to say that you are on a really good point, that if anything, it is showing how immoral that system is. But I would just recognize with a little bit of understanding that it wasn't meant to be a morality story. It was meant to be a national identity.
But like,
story.
I see that. Yeah.
This is so interesting, though, Kevin, because I think we're getting into right here a reason why a lot of atheists and a lot of Christians can't communicate well. Because, Kevin, I think what you're the goal of this call, if I'm understanding correctly, is you're putting yourself in the mind of a Christian who might be defending certain things about Exodus, and you're trying to think about ways in that context to refute that or like address that and be like, hey, you see this as a moral text, and you see this as like slavery is bad. So how do you reconcile the fact that one of the first things the Israelites did when they got out of slavery was get slaves? Like that's a really good conversation to have with a theist. And I think that by itself is worth talking about. And it's interesting because a lot of the time we've actually done a lot of digging and a lot of research, and we're like, oh, I know the answer to this. Actually, it's all a lie, which is an entirely different conversation. So when you're having a conversation with a theist who is looking at Exodus as a moral text and moral guidance, that is a really good point to bring up, Kevin. It just is also worth knowing for yourself, and if the conversation moves in other directions, that there are problems with even viewing Exodus as a moral text in the first place.
Thank you, V. That was very well laid out. Yes to all of those things.
Thank you so much for calling in, Kevin.
Thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Take care. You just summed that up super well.
I've been on panels. I can bullshit for 30 seconds and just like it'll sound good. I mean,
fair. It did come to mind, though. It's Israel Finkelstein. If you want to look into his books, it's an awesome debate and it's an awesome discussion. I've been doing a lot of work with Holy Kool-Aid on that studying, so it's just fresh in my mind.
Oh my gosh. Also, just FYI, there's been a fun conversation happening in the chat.
Oh.
And I like it because people are like, oh, well, they're not reading the chat. They wouldn't know what's being said. And yeah, we do. We know. We get it. We see you. And thank you, everybody, for being awesome about correcting pronouns and everything. It's actually okay on this show to talk about appearances a little bit. Like, we're not holding that firm line. I think that some of the other shows do, just because as long as you're being somewhat respectful, they're kind of fun and funny.
Or if you're creative. If you are creative, I hold dear to my heart some of the most hilarious
Small Boy and the Greasy Weasel.
Small Boy and the Greasy Weasel.
Like, we would not want to miss that. So, like, if you're going to come and be creative about it, go for it. Just, don't misgender people. And be nice to the mods because they deserve respect.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's next?
Let's talk with... Okay, Sunny has, like, a really interesting question, I think. It's a little bit off of our normal, but like...
That's all right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Hey.
Hi. What did you want to talk about, Sunny?
Well, actually, before I get into my topic, would it be okay if I made a quick comment on the morality thing?
Yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts, just as long as it's fast.
Oh, sure. It'll be really quick because I really want to get into my topic. But I'm an atheist, and I consider myself to be I feel like I'm a fairly moral person. But I wanted to make the point that I feel, at least, morality is intrinsically tied to empathy. And as humans, we developed to have empathy because it helped us form tribes, and that really increased our chances of survival. So that's bred into us. So I'm not going to go around and hurt people because that makes me feel bad to see people suffering. I'm not, moral because I fear the concept of hell, but because I fear the concept of making myself feel bad by seeing other people feel bad. If that makes any sense at all.
No, that makes perfect sense. And that's why that second half of the conversation has to happen. Because if you're like, I can't do anything that I want because I will feel bad about it. Then
right.
Exactly. All right. So give us briefly like an overview of what you're asking, because this is fascinating to me.
Sure. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll set the stage by explaining why I brought up this topic in the first place. So my grandmother is, she's a theist, hardcore. She's evangelical Christian through and through, very frustrated that I'm not, but she puts up with me, which is great. But I am a big fan of virtual reality, and I shared that with her because I wanted her to experience this technology, and my grandma is surprisingly open-minded.
Nice.
So she enjoyed virtual reality. She thought it was very cool. And then this concept of the metaverse coming to light kind of freaked her out. So I was on the phone talking with her. I try to call her every week, and we'd talk about all kinds of random things. But we got into the topic of virtual reality and the concept of the metaverse. For folks who don't know what the metaverse is, that's the concept that people can live, work, go to school and stuff, all within virtual reality or in some virtual way from home, be it AR or through whatever device they choose to use. AR is augmented reality, if you don't know that. Mm-hmm. But so we were talking about that, and she was really freaked out about the concept that in the future people won't leave their homes as much, or they would prefer to socialize from within their VR headset or virtually rather than being physically in a room with another person. And she seemed to think that there was less value in social interactions where you're not physically in a room with somebody. And I tend to disagree with that. I think that as long as you are taking care of your body and being healthy and, eating right, getting exercise, and taking care of yourself, if you prefer to socialize within VR, I see no reason why that should be any less valuable than being in person. And I wanted to bring up that topic and see what you guys thought about it.
Interesting.
I mean, I've got places to go with it, but I've been leading off the charge on these last couple calls. B, you wanna hit it?
Okay, so a couple thoughts here. First, kudos to your grandma for having these kind of conversations. That's really cool. So, on the one hand, even seeing what's been happening during COVID and quarantine and having it really bring to light the struggles that a lot of people who are just stuck at home all the time face, right? Whether because of, health reasons or whatever. Like, we had to do that for a year and a half. And some people have to deal with that all the time, and the world is not set up for them. So on the one hand,
one of those people, yeah.
Yeah. So on the one hand, absolutely, the more technology we can create that will allow that level playing field and allow you to do what you need to do or want to do in a situation where you are also taking care of your body and making sure that you're doing what's right for you, that's amazing. And I am so excited about it. The concern for me personally, and maybe this is just because I've watched too many sci-fi movies, my concern is less about the quality or value of the interactions and more the fact that you are essentially relinquishing some control of your reality to a corporation, right? And so there becomes that question of, how much of this reality am I in control of? How much can get taken away from me at any moment if I miss a subscription, How much might be altered or tweaked because it might sell more or get me involved more deeply? So, that's the part where I would personally have a lot of questions. But the value or morality of it, I think, is not necessarily even a question for me.
Okay, I got to push back.
Okay.
You live in a world with a government, right? You live in a country where there's a government. You going out in the world, you pay taxes, and your access is definitely and can be restricted and taken away by the government. While it's a company versus a government, those very specific points you brought up are also true.
Yes, and to a point, it's unavoidable. But again, if a company was, go for it, Sunny.
Just to kind of bolster Eric's point there a little bit, there's a bit of a difference, though. Government is it's a public service, whereas a lot of what is being built with the metaverse right now is being led by private companies.
Yeah.
So that that's where there's a bit of a difference.
Right, exactly.
Definitely.
That's exactly where I was going, Sunny. There are different structures involved and different motivations. If we could get a public version of augmented reality to be adopted without that private company incentive to...
Could you imagine?
It would be really interesting. I would watch the shit out of that movie. I want to write that short story. I want to be around long enough to see something like that happen.
It's pretty much Ready Player One.
Yeah, essentially. So
You're not far off.
yeah. So I think it's an interesting conversation. I know, Eric, you had other things you wanted to jump in on, though, because I
did. I'm going to move the mic towards me just a little bit more. So where I was going with it, give me just a second. Interacting in the world. Okay, V, you're going to have to help me vamp because I lost it. Vamping. Sunny, what do you think so far?
Well, while you're thinking, there's a little joke that I want to crack before I end here. When I was talking with my grandma about this topic, we were talking about the metaverse, and of course, Meta is, what Facebook used to be called, and it's owned by Mark Zuckerberg. And my grandma was talking about the mark of the beast. And how that's
Mark Zuckerberg of the Beast? I can get on with that.
Of the Beast.
I lost it.
That's amazing.
I had a good laugh, but she was
Sunny,
taking it a little bit more seriously.
She was a little more serious.
I love that. That is our thumbnail for this clip.
Mark of the Beast.
I love it. Oh, people are going to think it's clickbaity. I don't care. It's wonderful. Okay, so I remember what I was going to say. What I was going to say is just kind of like everything else, context. If I'm talking to somebody who lived through the Cold War and we're talking about socialism or communism, I need to take into account that they are bringing with them all of the baggage of living through a time when there was that much propaganda against concepts like communism and socialism. Now, if we take a look at describing someone, if you were to say, back then, this person is in their home all of the time, I haven't seen them in a while, and the only way that you understand and recognize and are actively socially interacting is when you're going out and doing things, then this person is at home, was shorthand for you've got a Sylvia Plath type. You've got you. I don't know why I pick on Sylvia Plath so much, but it's just.
I mean, she kind of brought it on herself.
She really did. I don't think she'd be upset at us.
Okay. I'm going to hell. If there's a hell, I'm going to it for that.
I mean, okay, that killed me.
Make a hell of virtual reality.
Right? Yeah. So, but
shit, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, but I honestly sometimes I think I'm already there. But the idea that someone is inside all of the time was secondhand for they're not well, and so your grandma's probably having to come up against this wall of understanding that this person inside all the time is and always has been another way of saying this person is unwell. And
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of that cognitive dissonance with folks that are in her generation dealing with that.
And it's probably going to be very similar along the lines of how people need to deconstruct living through a time when there was a lot of stigma and a lot of propaganda against words like communism and socialism. And, it stymies growth because it limits our options when we're talking about how to be a better society. And I think that this is going to be something that stymies growth and limits our ability to grow technologically and reach out, because the world's getting smaller. But that's definitely going to be a hurdle. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sunny, this was a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
I liked this a lot.
I appreciate it. Me too. I've been listening to the show for a while. You guys are great. I became a Patreon supporter yesterday, or a couple of days ago.
Yay! Thank you.
Yay!
Oh my gosh,
Aww.
so cool. All right, thank you so much, Sunny. Have a lovely rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta give it to Satu for trying. I got to give it to Satu for trying. Is killing a prawn for pleasure immoral? That I mean, I got to give you credit for it. We're going to take a bit of a break from it. But like,
oh my gosh.
That was good. Like, that was good.
Technically, that wouldn't get called out. But
then the ethical vegans are going to come our way, and you have no idea. Please have some empathy for us.
So, no. Here's the deal, though, with that. So for those of you who might not have followed that little bit, we can see who calls in and what they are calling about on our screen. So because the call screeners are amazing, they put little notes. Hey, this person's calling back. This is what they want to talk about. It gives us a little bit of a way to lead in and not be blindsided. Satif was going to call in again about abortion, and we were like, no. And so Satif called back with the question, is killing a prawn for pleasure immoral? And after seeing the trolling that was happening in the live chat earlier from this person.
I didn't see the trolling.
And understanding that we got to a certain place last week where we agreed on a lot, and we found that the fundamental difference was that Satif believed in a soul and in an afterlife and in the concept of life being life beginning at conception, essentially. And then we had the lovely student Dr. Ben call in right after that and give a lot more context. The fact that we're going to apparently be going back to this third degree of separation, fantastical, absurdist philosophical question about killing a prawn for pleasure.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to. That level of armchair philosophy is fantastic. Is fantastic in the right time and place. But,
not from a troll, though.
Yeah, and YouTube laid an egg last week. Like, let's just make sure that we have the ability to have different types of calls, and we can address. No,
I'm just done.
You're just done.
I'm done because. Here's the deal. We had somebody who is pursuing a medical degree, who has that scientific knowledge, call in with clear, defined terms and explanations of all the different procedures and when they would happen and why they would happen and percentages and statistics, and it was great. And on the other side of that, we've got, can you torture a fucking prawn for pleasure?
But can you, V?
It's so stupid and useless. And stop it. Okay, I'm good.
Satif, you ever come out to Austin? You call me. We'll sit down. We'll have a beer. We'll talk about torturing prawns. But for now, we're going to talk to Nick in Alaska.
Okay.
Nick, you're live with Eric and V.
Hello. It's wonderful to talk to both of you.
Hi. What did you want to talk about today?
So I had a question on something I don't have much experience with, and I think you guys would be able to provide some good perspective on that. So is it disrespectful to use somebody's first name or preferred first name instead of their preferred pronoun to avoid missteps?
Good question. And this is relevant because I just did that with Satif this entire time. So no. It's not actually, I wouldn't say it's disrespectful to do that if your goal is to avoid missteps and you're not comfortable yet and you're trying to get better, but you don't want to practice on somebody and risk hurting their feelings. Totally get it. I 100% support that. The only way that one would be able to say it's disrespectful is if you were doing it on purpose because you didn't agree with their pronouns.
Yeah, I've seen it in the real world. I've seen people say, "Well, I disagree with that. I'm not going to use your whatever, so I'm just going to use your name because it's again like a personal protest."
But like that's the thing though. Like, it's not disrespectful, though. I wouldn't call it disrespectful. I'd say, okay, well, let's talk about the hang-up there, and let's talk about the fact that getting a different pronoun involved is 10 times less complicated than trying to not use pronouns at all. But yeah, I totally think that if that's the way to go, and you aren't confident that you're going to get the pronouns right yet, you can sub in the name. That's fine. But yeah, it's nice that you have asked.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for that perspective. Yeah, I mean, I know somebody who is in the middle of transitioning and going from that that change in their life, it's difficult for me to adjust on a dime. So I'm getting used to that personal change. So I want to continue to be respectful as a fellow human being, and not make mistakes as I have in the past with misgendering somebody, an honest mistake, but still I want to be as kind as I can be.
Well, I love that. And what I would encourage, Nick, and I'm sure you already have done this, is to just be that open and honest with your friend, right?
That's
and
what I
say,
was gonna say, yeah.
hey, I'm supportive, and the worst thing that I think I could do is accidentally make you feel like I don't see you. And so I'm trying to get used to this. So please be patient. In the meantime, I'm going to do my best to not misgender you. And I'm going to use your name instead just until I get used to this. Is that okay? And of course, that's going to be okay, right? Because you're friends. You've been honest about where you're coming from and your motivation. That's very understandable. So yeah, I would just be 100% honest with your friend or with anybody and be like, hey, I'm trying. It's new. Can I use your name until I get comfortable with it?
And I've noticed that it can be especially hard when you know somebody as they transition, and so you move from using one set of pronouns to another. If you meet someone and they've already transitioned and they have that set of, either, or, neopronouns or whatever the case is, it's easier to click into. But yeah, it takes some time, it takes some practice.
Yeah, and any reasonable person would know that.
Yeah.
And understand.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your insight and advice.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Have a great day.
You too.
You too. We had a caller from, Indiana, Alaska. We turned down a call from Spain. We had a call from
Florida.
It is amazing that we get to do this, and I'm so tickled that we got to do Faithless Forum this weekend. It feels good.
Yeah, it really does. It feels more real, because most of the time it just feels like us sitting in our room bullshitting.
Yeah,
and it's
overheating
fun.
a little bit under the lamp.
Yeah, for real. And it's fun, and we love it, and we love connecting. But this weekend it got real very fast, and I'm still kind of riding that. So that's really cool.
Definitely. And also, thank you all for understanding that we were 30 minutes late. I mean, really, less than 5 minutes before the show started, we found out that we cannot use the other mic.
Which is why we've been really awkward and close this whole time.
And also, if you're listening to this as a podcast and it's weird and late, it's because Eric put many, many hours into trying his best to make this sound listenable. Thank you for your patience. We're trying our absolute best. But do you want to move into reading the live chats?
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Sarah Dye, $20. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all you do. I love you both, and it was wonderful meeting you this weekend.
Yay!
Oh, this is Sarah. Hi,
Yay!
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah was fun to talk to.
Sarah had a Have You Met Becky shirt on last night.
I didn't notice.
Yes. It was amazing.
Oh.
I was talking, we were talking for a good half hour, and then Sarah got up. I was like, oh,
Do you know
it's
Becky?
our shirt. Do you know Becky? I loved it.
Let's see. Crypt America sent 5 Canadian and says, pro-choice solidarity from Canada, support women's right to health. We matter as citizens. Fuck yeah, you do. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Dante Verona, who we also got to meet this weekend. I was like, oh, I need to if you're in the area for longer, Dante, hit us up, let us know, because we'd love to take you to dinner. Dante, $20, had a splendid time at Faithless Forum, my first atheist convention ever. Yippee! Lots of wonderful brains all in one room.
I agree. It was awesome meeting you. Speaking of Jonathan Fuller, we also got to see, I actually got to hug him this morning, says, I'm saying goodbye to other friends, so I don't have time to watch. Just wanted to say thank you both for being part of what made the drive worth it.
Oh my gosh.
We're so grateful, dude. It was awesome getting to talk to you, and I wish that we would have had more time to spend with you. But the time that we did get to have, I'm so grateful for.
Absolutely. Sarah Dye, another $5, says hiya. Love it.
Student Dr. Ben.
Oh my
We
gosh.
said goodbye to this morning. Says, hi friends. Here's a fun medical word of the day for you. Choledocholithiasis? Help me, B. What do you think?
Choledocholithiasis. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it refers to gallstones in the common bile duct and is a fun word to say. Once I learn how to say it, I'll probably agree.
Fun for you. Goodwill thinking. 3 pounds and 99 pence. Oh, I keep slipping over people. Amit.
Hey, Amit!
Who we also got to meet. And oh my God, I've been gushing about Amit this entire time.
Amit's handsome.
He's kind of hot.
He really is.
Is that inappropriate? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Amit, $10. Eric and V, it was fun getting to meet you at Faithless Forum.
It was fun meeting you as well. I wish I would have had more time to talk to you, man.
Amit and Ethan rapping Vanilla Ice. I died. I left my body.
Oh, what song did Steve Woodford sing?
Oh, he didn't actually end up singing anything.
No, I thought he was going to sing My Heart Will Go On.
I put him down to sing My Heart Will Go On.
Oh, we'll make this happen. Okay. Goodwill Thinking sent us £3.99. Thank you. SM sent $1.99. Thank you.
Brandon the guy. Oh, this is Brandon from earlier. $5. So sorry about the connection issues and the rowdy kids. I have further questions, but I'll call again later. Y'all are great. Perfect. Do call back, and we'll make sure to prioritize your call.
Yeah, Atheist Jr. sent us 50. Atheist Jr. sent us $5. It says, best weekend ever. So much fun. Yay.
Oh, yeah. Atheist Jr. Hit 2K subs over the weekend.
Congratulations.
And Student Dr. Ben hit 500. So some people started getting into different rungs on there.
Definitely. Speaking of, Lloyd Evans hit 100K.
Wow. All right. Everybody's growing.
Yeah.
It's great. And then Kenshin 491 sent $1.99. Any advice on keeping the BS detector calibrated? Good question.
Actively calibrate that all of the time. The second you stop learning, the second you stop growing is the second that information starts going stale. And just keep using it. Keep asking questions. Keep applying Socratic reasoning. Why do we do what we do? And, try your best to use the tools that we talk about. Have good reasons for the things that you believe and demand evidence for claims that are important. What do you think, V?
Yeah. Your epistemology is the thing you should focus on first and foremost. And if you've got a good epistemology and it seems to be working well for you and it accurately represents the world around you, then your BS detector is calibrated.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we are going to, oh gosh, we've got a lot more to do. We still need to unpack, but everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for understanding, for your patience, for calling in. Until next time.
Until next time, you've got a whole year, okay? Save up and come and see us in real life. And we really want to meet you. Okay, bye.